everyone, and welcome to our very first installment of YouTube videos for our Every Nation Tswane worship teams, where we're going to be just growing together in our skill, really trusting God that this can empower our teams to worship Him skillfully, and so we can really just honor Him by the way we worship through music. So my name is Gerard. I'm from our Every Nation Willows congregation, and I'll be sharing on electric guitar, just some thoughts on electric guitar and how to use electric guitar within a worship context. So yes, let's jump right into it. Please hit the subscribe button, as we're going to be post monthly videos on this platform. So today I thought we can just jump right in with just looking at the CAGED system. Now, the CAGED system, for those of you that don't know, comes from the 5 open position chords that we have on the guitar, which is our C, our A, our G, our E, and then D. Good. So these chords are great, but I'm sure, as you found, there's a whole neck on your guitar that you can explore beyond just playing in the first position, and especially in a worship context. I've really found that for me to fit well within the mix, for me to play well within the band, I really want to use the upper register of the guitar's neck. Just because within a worship context, there's so many other instruments also playing in the mid-range areas, like your pianos, like your pads and your synths, and your acoustic guitars as well. There's just so much going on in the mid-range, usually within a worship band, that the electric guitar's place for me is really more in the upper mid register. So that's why we just want to explore a bit today and see how we can apply these same chord shapes just higher up on the neck. So this how we're going to apply this is by, let me just illustrate it by taking our C chord. So if you take your C, and now you just switch your fingers around, still pressing the same chord, but now we're just going to start moving it up the fretboard. So as we're moving it up, the chord is actually changing. Now we already have an F here. This would be a F C shape, but we're still using our C shape. Okay, and you can apply that to each one of the 5 open position shapes. So that's how we're going to be referring to them, as this would be a C shape, A shape, D shape, E shape, and G shape. Okay, good. So let's maybe look at a song just to make this a little bit more practical. Let's just take a song. I've just chosen Kari Jobe's Forever. Has a very common chord progression, the 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression. And let's just look at that in C, just so that we can see how we can apply the CAGED system to just play higher up on the fretboard for that song. So the chord progression would be C, G, A, and then F. So let's see if we can apply that higher up on the fretboard. So the first position where I want us just to apply that is in the 8th, on the 8th fret. If we move our E shape all the way up to the 8th fret, we get our C E shape. As you you can hear. Same chord, just with a few higher notes. And then we're going to look at our G chord. And for our G, we can then do our C shape G, which would be here on the 7th fret. And then we're going to look at our A minor, and that we're going to do with our D shape. Good. And then lastly, we're going to have our F, which we're going to do with our A shape here on the 8th fret. Now, usually, once you start going higher up the fretboard with your A shape, it's a little bit difficult to fit all 3 fingers into one fret. So I just bar with my third finger here. Okay, good. So now what I want us to do is that same progression that we did now. A lot of, especially the top 3 strings, is a lot of the same notes as you would find in your first position. So I feel really like where you want to be focusing, and in order for you to just not clutter the mix more in that mid-range frequency spectrum, is a lot of times focus just on the bottom 3 strings. So I take the same shape that I have here, for instance, my E shape C, and I just play the bottom 3 notes, or the higher 3 notes. And then you can do the same with all of the other chords as well. So, and then for our G, and then for our A minor, and then for our F. And then you can start just doing different patterns with that. And there you already have something very musical, something you could probably use in a worship set for that song. Now that was in one position here around the 8th and 7th fret. We can take that exact same idea and move it all the way up to the 12th fret even. Then your chords would look a little bit different. But what's great about moving it all the way up to the 12th fret is you can just use the same shapes as you would use for your open position. So I can play my open position or my C shape C. Now it's just an octave higher than that one. And then I can also just do the bottom 3 strings. And then for our G, we can do our G shape, which would look like this. And then for our A minor, and then for our F. There you already have some very good ideas that you can use to play a song in the higher register. So now, and I think the best part about this is you don't necessarily even need to be able to play your whole bar chord if that's a technique that you're still struggling with, because you're just focusing on the bottom 3 strings. So I want us to look at 2 songs where we can very clearly see how they applied this the CAGED system for that song. And the two songs is going to be From the Inside Out, a golden oldie, but probably still one of my favorite worship songs. And then also Kari Jobe's Hands to the Heavens. So let's look at From the Inside Out first. So this song is also in the key of C. So you have your F minor 7 chord is your first chord, which pretty much looks like your A minor. You just have your D string you have on the 3rd fret there. And then you have your C, and then a G. So now the guitar line at the beginning of the intro of this song sounds something like this. Okay, so how did they get to that? Very, very easy. They literally just used the shapes of these chords an octave higher. So the first chord is our F sharp minor. If you had to play that an octave higher, it would look like this. So they just took the bottom 3 strings there, and all they did was just to do a little hammer on that first note there. So you hammer on from the 12th fret to the 14th fret, just like that. And then they just use the rest of the shape for that F sharp. F minor 7. F major 7, sorry. Great. And then you go to your C. And then for the G, they just used the E-shaped G, which is a little bit difficult to fit in here, but it would be the same one that you would do there, just the octave higher. And then they just took those 3 notes on the D string, the G string, and the B string. So in the end you get all 3 the components of that line came directly from the chord shapes of the CAGED system. So the first one is just the F major 7 in the E shape. The second one is the C shape, which would look like that. And then the third one was just the E shape of the G. All right. So that's just one song where it's very evident how they applied the CAGED system to get that guitar line. Another song I want us to look at is Kari Jobe's Hands to the Heavens, which the song is actually played in F sharp on the album, but I'm suspecting that they just tuned their guitars a half step lower. So I'm going to be demonstrating it in G, but please note that if you want to play this song with the album, you're probably going to need to play it a half step lower on your fretboard. But for this example, I'm just going to play it in G. So within the key of G. So the line for this song is pretty much based on your A-shaped G, which you'd find here on the 10th fret. Now the great thing about the CAGED system is the same variations that you can use for your chords in open position. For instance, suspended 2, which this is your normal major chord. But if you lift up your ring finger, that gives you your A sus2 chord. So that same variation, you can use that with your CAGED shape chords as you go up the fretboard. So if you have the sus2 there, you can, as you move it up the fretboard, just and so that's exactly what the guitarist did in this song, where he just took the G suspended 2 chord and played it here on the 10th fret. And so that line in the intro sounds something like this. Where he's just using the D, G, and B string of that G sus2 A-shaped chord. So he repeats that twice, and then he just goes to the full G major chord. So the intro goes something like this. Very easy, but so great to just see how he applied that. Then I just want to look at the bridge of that song, because he uses much of the same ideas to carry it into the bridge, where in the bridge they're going to the minor chord, which would in the key of G be your E minor. And so he continues with the same pattern or almost rhythmic pattern, but he just moves it up the fretboard to your E shape E minor chord on the 12th fret. So you have your E minor there, but then on your 12th fret you have it again. And so once again he just uses the bottom 3 strings of this chord in that bridge where he goes. And then he goes back to the G suspended 2 as he did in the intro. And then he goes to the E shape D. So it sounds something like this. Then he just ends with the G suspended 2 again. So very clearly there, E shape, E minor, then again the G suspended 2 in the A shape, and then the D major in the E shape, and then again the G suspended 2. Great. Um, so that's just a few applications of the CAGED system. How a few guitarists has used it within songs. There's a lot of great examples of this, um, where guitarists have used the CAGED system just to create melodic lines within music. So just look out for those, and next time you learn a guitar line, just try and figure out where can you fit which shape are you playing of which chord, and I think a lot of these things will start making sense for you to the point where you can start making your own lines within a worship set. I think the big thing and application for this would just be when you're practicing for your next worship set. Try and experiment with different chord shapes higher up the neck, and especially on the bottom three strings. Just see if you can create some interesting chords and patterns that'll maybe just color it a little bit more than playing your usual chords. Yeah, so I hope this was helpful. I'm going to post all of the YouTube links and just some extra things um, on the comments, and then please just also comment and send some requests for some lessons about things you're wondering about, things you would like to learn. Yeah, see you guys next time.